Hey, what's up guys, I'm Victorian and welcome back to Victoria 3 as we are playing with the United States of America. So before we get started in today's episode, I did want to address one thing that sort of dominated the comments of the previous episode, and that is in regards to when you can ban slavery without having any issues. It seems that a lot of viewers were thinking that I was saying that it can't be done earlier than I had done it in the 1880s or something like that. I don't know where people got that from, because that's not what I was saying. I know people just want to argue on the internet, so they look for things to argue about, but that's not what I was saying. I was talking very specifically about my situation in that campaign, my specific situation, where in the 1850s, when I first tried it, I had like a ton of radicals. I believe I talked about this last episode. I had to the point where so many people were angry with me that there was people who didn't care about slavery at all. They're in interest groups that didn't care about slavery. They're in non-slave states, and they were all willing to rise up and rebel over this issue, not because they cared about me banning slavery, but just because I had like millions and millions of radicals. People were very unhappy with me for two reasons. The first one was actually this right here, the enact migration controls. As you can see, the radicalism here is low, but when I got it, the radicalism was already medium. And I had gotten like millions of radicals for this because I let it sit for so long without doing anything with it, just kind of hoping it would go away, and it didn't. So this political movement caused millions of radicals, and then on top of that, industrialization tends to piss people off. I've seen that in both of my two campaigns. It does seem to produce quite a bit of radicals, largely because there's a lot of people losing their jobs, and it's just kind of it's realistic. Because it's a radical transformation of society, so you can expect that it's going to frustrate people. It particularly frustrates the elites as the power moves from the aristocracy to the industrialist. So I see that in both of my campaigns, and maybe you experience something different, that once I start industrializing, which I started from the very beginning, trying to industrialize as rapidly as I could, I find that it produces a ton of radicals. And so I had it was a lot, guys. It was like 14 million radicals or something like that. And I had a similar number of loyalists, like almost everybody in the country, which I think I had around 20-something million people at that time. It might not have been as high as 14, maybe 12 million radicals, and then a similar number of loyalists. So the majority of the country was one or the other, which isn't typical, but that's what happened in my campaign. And do keep in mind that I was also playing on a pre-release version of the game, and they had, at least 5 patches during the 2 weeks that I had the game. Probably more than that, though, because I wasn't even online for a whole week there when I was moving. And they had some pretty radical changes, some drastic changes during that period. I don't want to talk too much on it because I don't know how much Paradox wants me to discuss about their pre-release processes. But there were some pretty huge changes. One, in fact, required me to rapidly build a bunch of stuff because they had made such a drastic change with one of the mechanics. So there's some pretty big changes up to the release of the game, the official release. And so I was on a different version of the game, so things were different than what we're all playing right now on the 1.0 version. There was a different a balance to the game. But my point is I wasn't saying that you couldn't do it earlier. You most definitely probably can. It seems like that's the case. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people in the comments. In fact, it seems it's beneficial to do it immediately, like to just get, obviously you're going to have to put somebody in power. So just get one of the, interest groups into power that will support it, and then do it immediately because you don't have any radicals at the beginning of the game. So, if you can push in like the intelligentsia right away, and then just go ahead and start working on that immediately, which as of right now, obviously we can't do it because we're already enacting a law. But look at the chance here, a 50% chance of enacting. It's incredibly high. So it seems like that's an oversight. It does say it's going to radicalize the Southern planters, who are, I think at this point, our most powerful. Yeah, they're our most powerful interest group. So, I imagine you'd still have a problem with the political movement coming up and causing a lot of radicals, but I think it's an oversight, because I think that's not the way Paradox wanted it to be. I believe that Paradox wanted it to be very difficult to do it, but clearly that's not the case, because people are saying they're doing it like immediately, in 1836 up to like 1839, and they're doing it relatively easy. Again, I didn't even attempt it because I assumed it would be too difficult, so I focused on industrialization first. So I'm not saying you can't do it early. I didn't even try. I tried in the 1850s and I already had too many people pissed off, and so that caused the issue. And I tried to get the radicals down before I attempted again. So we might take a look at my other campaign at the end of this episode for those of you guys who are interested to see where I ended. It was like 87 or something like that, to show those of you who are interested where I was at that point in the game, which I was incredibly wealthy and doing very, very well at that point. In fact, I don't even know what I would do anymore since it was kind of feeling easy because I was just stupidly wealthy. I'll show you guys that at the end of this video, so those of you who don't care won't have to watch that part. But I did want to address this because it was basically dominating the comments. I think people were misinterpreting what I was saying. So yeah, that's not what I was saying at all, guys. You could definitely, obviously, do it much earlier. I didn't even attempt to, and we could try and do that in this one. In fact, after we finish up this Guaranteed Liberties, which I don't know how long this is going to take to pass, because as you can see, we don't have a very high chance, but that's not too bad. Once this passes, then we can try. Why not? I'm willing to do it early. I think that's better to do it early because I don't think slavery is economically good for your country. That was my experience, is that economically it was a bad thing. I won't go into details on why that was because it would take too long. But of course, there's also the moral objections to it as well. And then there's the fact that that's one of our goals in the campaign. So yeah, I'm willing to try it after we finish this up. So let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. And I just started playing that, not realizing we have a couple things we got to do. We got an event here, Bleeding Kansas. Abolitionists and proponents of slavery have been pouring into Kansas, hoping to shape the territory's government to their liking. Paramilitary groups have begun committing acts of violence against each other and civilians. So we can go at border ruffians cannot dictate law. Kansas must be a free state, and Kansas will remain a free territory. Or Jayhawkers do not decide what is right. Kansas will be a slave state. And then a small number of slaves move to Kansas, and I guess it would be considered a slave state. So yeah, we're going to go with this one. Obviously, that makes sense for our goals. But yeah, one thing I didn't talk about is the colonization. We'll go into that here in a minute. First, we need to get something constructing, and I already know what we're going to be doing. There's a lot of things we need to take care of as far as prices, but this is a really important government good paper, and two of the objectives we want to complete here do need paper to be at a cheaper cost, a much cheaper cost, because they will result in a much higher demand for paper. So let's fix that. Let's get the paper cost down, and we'll do that by building more paper mills. Currently we have 2 in New York and 3 in New Jersey. I did want to see if there's anything we can change here. Looks like that's a no. So we're just going to go ahead and construct some new paper mills, and we'll take a look and see if these ones would be profitable. It says it'd be a no. So let's just see which states it would be profitable in. Seems that Illinois would get a good profit and has a lot of peasants, but I think we just built something in Illinois. And I do like spreading out the love a little bit, because if you build in the same states over and over again, then those ones become very profitable. The people there become very happy, but then the rest of your people are agitated for good reason, because they don't have any new jobs. So I'm thinking maybe Connecticut. There's 33,000 peasants there, and it would make a bit of a profit. These also aren't entirely accurate because it changes so much. So I wouldn't be entirely like allowing this to dictate what you do. In fact, a lot of times I'll build in places that say they won't have a profit but already have some of the buildings there, and I find that it ends up being better. But in this case, obviously these are pretty bad, so we won't build there. We're gonna go ahead and start with Connecticut. I think we'll build 2 there. Yeah, let's go and get 2 there. So Connecticut seems to be our paper mill location. All right, so this is one thing I wanted to address here, and that is the colonization. You'll see that these days are ticking down. Each state will colonize one province over the certain amount of days. It's like 100-something days. A couple things can influence how long that takes, but you'll see when this period ends here that we'll get one little province, and there's no way to like interact with the provinces in the states. But yeah, you see that there are in fact provinces. You can't click on them like in other Paradox games. But yeah, we just got that province there. Basically, they really only impact colonization and warfare. They're kind of important. Now, armies don't move around the map. We'll see that once we go to war. Most likely, first war will be with one of the Native American tribes, I'm assuming. I think they'll attack us. And we got a couple events here we can go through. So, Henry Clay, leader of the intelligentsia, has proposed outright prohibiting slavery in all our new Western territories. Some opponents demand simple moderation, but others are demanding legalization of slavery in all new territories. So we can reject this. This remains a state-by-state issue. It's going to piss off, apparently going to piss off everybody, at least just a little bit, slightly irritate them, I suppose. We can accept it, abolish slavery in the West, and that will only piss off the Southern planters, make everybody else happy. Or you can reject it, and that would have the opposite effect. Obviously, we're going to go with this one with our goals. That makes the most sense. We've also got another slavery event, apparently, a cry for freedom. A lot of events with slavery, though this one actually isn't. This is the Guaranteed Liberties one. Did we see this one? I feel like we've already seen this one. Yeah, we've seen this one here. So, again, we're going to go with this, even though it will create a bunch of radicals. We're trying to get this done. So I would like to get this done, hopefully the next tick over here, so that we can work on something else, because this is taking a long time. Armed forces will continue to get irritated, unfortunately. But yeah, you're always going to piss somebody off. Alright, so we've got a little bit of open construction here. So let's go ahead and see what we want to work on. It looks like groceries are still quite expensive. So I suppose we'll work on that, because yeah, that's very expensive. So let's get maybe a couple of those going. It's expensive enough, I think, to warrant 2 of these. And we would prefer to build in a location that already has them, because again, you get a nice bonus for doing so, keeping them in the same location. So maybe one here in Vermont, and then we'll go with somewhere else. So yeah, I got Illinois there, and New Hampshire. I've got a lot. We'll do one in Illinois. But yeah, you kind of want to build where you got a lot of peasants, and we're going to make a profit. That's typically what makes sense. So we got one of the paper mills done. We're waiting for the last one here. And paper should be significantly cheaper as they get, more of their employees in there. So as of right now, it's still kind of, somewhat high, but that's going to continue to tick down. So this should allow us to go ahead and achieve the 2 objectives. Paper might get really expensive for a time, but we can phase that. It won't be a big deal. We're going to do both of these just to get it done. So the first one we need to do here is go to the standardized filing system. This is going to produce a ton of bureaucracy, which will allow us to, both expand our institutions, something we're currently working on, and also to add more states. Also, it's going to give us increased taxation capacity, and you can see it's going to be, it's going to definitely impact the paper situation significantly. Okay, that's actually much worse than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, it's going to require 360 more. The other thing we can do is the philosophy department, and this will not require as much, won't have as big of an effect, and that's going to get us increased qualifications and increased innovation. And again, we're just going to do both of these at the same time. And then tons of bureaucracy now. So what we need to do is deal with the paper situation, because it's going to be very expensive here in a second. You're going to see that skyrocket up. Yep, and now we have a shortage as well. The shortage impacts everything, all the buildings that use it, as you can see. Got input good shortage. So we need to get more paper mills going to fix that problem. And because it's so expensive, there's a huge profit to be had, and Connecticut is actually the best location to build in. So we're going to build one there, and you know what? We got enough peasants there. Let's just build it up again. That's kind of like our center of paper production. I like kind of focusing in, like having each state have some specialties. First of all, it's more efficient because they get a bonus for the number of buildings they have of that, and it's the Great Sioux Nation that's going to be starting our first diplomatic play. This is going to result in a small conflict. So we'll get to see some war here. So let's first see if we can establish a colony anywhere else. Looks like we can. Also, I want to see if there's any more declared interest that we could do. I don't think so. Yeah, we have 8 of 8 right now. Because if we want to colonize over here, we have to declare all that as an interest. So we have a couple places we're still colonizing right now. You can see because we're in a diplomatic play, all the military information has popped up. Let's go and take a look at that now. So we can add war goals, not necessary, because the goal is to annex the Great Sioux Nation. So if we win this war, that's exactly what will happen. They could also just decide to give in to our demand if they know they're going to lose, which they're worried. They do know they're going to lose, but more than likely they're going to attempt to fight this with their goals of conquering all this territory here. If they were to win, obviously that's not going to be a problem. It doesn't look like there's anybody else involved because nobody else has an interest in these locations, so they can't get involved. So it's just us and them, and basically the war starts once this goes all the way through. We will want to mobilize our troops just so that we'll have them ready, but we're going to do that closer to the end, guys, because we pay for them as soon as we start mobilizing them. But it does take time to mobilize, so we don't want to wait till the last minute, though I don't think they have much troops. They have none mobilized right now. They have 7 battalions. Okay, so we have to fight. We'll have to fight a little bit for it. We did just complete nationalism. That's going to increase our authority, which I actually forgot. There's something I wanted to do with that authority. We want to suppress the Southern planters. Now, of course, that means less authority up here means that we're not getting the full 25% enactment time. Said it's a 22.2%. That's fine. In fact, we might be able to get this done here soon. So we need to get another tech going. And while we have that 20% modifier, I think we should continue to get stuff here. I'm thinking the negative 5% bureaucracy population cost multiplier would be nice to have. And we can get these quicker than other techs. 20 months here. Military, we're not going to be doing too much fighting for a little while, so don't really need to work on these just yet. But we do want to start working on production techs as well. But I think we're going to get this one first, just because we can get it quicker. Let me see if there's anything else that would be really useful for us right now. Yeah, I think that's probably the best one for us. So we'll get that in 20 months. So again, just waiting for this to get a little further on. All right, we have an interest in the Great Plains now. So you can see the number of troops that are currently on this front. They have 5, we have 3. The 3 we have are the garrisons, so they'll defend the front on their own. You don't even need to have a commander over there, though obviously it's better to have a commander there. So we got an event here, and also we just got notified that we've gotten opinion as high as we could with one of those countries. So I think it was France. So backroom dealings exposed. So prominent members of the intelligentsia, outspoken supporters of guaranteed liberties, and close allies of Henry Clay have been exposed in a corruption scandal, having exchanged political favors for personal gifts. So we can say such is the nature of politics. This will reduce the enactment success chance, which is very unfortunate because I think we would have got it done. Well, we didn't get it done this last time. Yeah, despite the 60% chance. Henry Clay becomes less popular as well. Or we can throw them to the wolves. We must clean up this mess. We'll lose bureaucracy for 5 years, but the enactment chance won't be, impacted as much. Yeah. I don't really want to lose the bureaucracy. This is, of course, helping us with state construction, but mainly we're planning on using that here soon. I'm waiting to get this done. It's taking forever. Sometimes you just get really unlucky, which is exactly what's been happening here. We've been getting incredibly unlucky, and that's another thing with the banning slavery. It's also kind of a matter of luck. Do you get it done very quickly, and thus political movements can't really stop you or cause any problems, or does it take forever and then allows time for perhaps a revolution to happen, a civil war to break out? So a lot of randomness is tied to some of this law stuff. I feel like we should do this one because I actually don't want Henry Clay to be popular. The intelligentsia is not really who we're trying to make more powerful. We actually want the industrialists to get a bit more power. I mean, eventually we're going to want to get intelligentsia in there, but not yet. So I think what we're going to do is just go with this one, even though it's going to hit us on the success chance higher. I don't want to lose the bureaucracy for 5 years. That's a long time. So we're just going to go with that one because it doesn't impact the country as much. All right, so we're going to let this get a little bit further. What we need to do is see if there's any gold mines in any of our states? I don't think so. Yeah, not yet. Okay, but once we get those, you can get a ton of money from gold. So yeah, it's something we'll want to do. You'll get little notifications about gold rushes. All right, so it looks like war is going to break out. I don't think they're going to give in, so let's go ahead and get our troops mobilized. So we'll get to take a look at this for the first time. We haven't looked at this yet. So we don't need to mobilize much. This is going to be a small conflict overall. Just looking at the troop numbers that our generals have, they actually don't have very many. So we probably should have looked at this before, knowing that we're going to have rebellions. But yeah, I think we got a decent number. This will work just fine. We got Zachary Taylor as one of our generals. So he, former President Zachary Taylor, and he's got 3 battalions. You cannot move these guys around once they are assigned to a specific region. So in the case of Zachary Taylor, he's in the Midwest region. That's where they are permanently stuck. I've never seen any way to move it. They also have their rank. He's currently a brigadier general. One way to remember this is, be my little general. So brigadier general first, major general second, lieutenant general third, and then just a 4-star general is last. I learned that when I was in the Army. So yeah, he's the lowest rank. Their rank mostly impacts how many units, how many battalions they can command. So in his case, it's 20 regular battalions and 40 conscript battalions. Also increases their political strength for the interest group that they support. In his case, it's the evangelicals. Also, you'll see it impacts bureaucracy by a slight amount, but that's not really very much, so not much of a consideration. Unless, I guess, if you're really, really short on bureaucracy. So then we also have Winfield Scott, and he's a major general, level 2. And that will have those effects, allowing him to command 40 regular battalions. So essentially, each general commands the troops in one region. Again, Zachary Taylor is in the Midwest. Winfield Scott is in the New England region. And you'll see the Dixie HQ does not have a general. And so we'd have to assign one there in order to raise them up with the troops. Now, we've already seen that they can still defend as a garrison without being raised up, but if you want to send them to a front, you kind of put a general there. So we need to assign one here if we wanted to make use of those 5 battalions. But I think we're just going to send these 6. That's enough. But essentially, when you want to add more troops for that particular general to control, then you need to build up the barracks in those regions. So I don't know where these barracks are located. I guess we can take a look at the state buildings and see if we can find them. So one of them here in the New England area is in Massachusetts. So they have a level 1 barracks. That means it's providing 1 battalion. We have a limit, and this is, of course, we saw that with our laws in the previous episode. So we can only get 5 for each state. So that's all we can get as of right now. That can be increased drastically under different laws, but we have the National Militia Law, which just doesn't provide very many battalions with the barracks. Your primary number of troops that you're going to get are going to be conscripts, which is the conscription center. So that's different, but it works the same way effectively. The conscription center will provide the units to that general if you raise them up, which we are not going to get conscripts. That's unnecessary. That does pull people out of the other buildings that they're working to instead become troops temporarily until the war's over. We want to use our regular army, our standing army. So we've got plenty to deal with this situation here. It's a small conflict. So yeah, we're going to raise up both of these 2 here. They'll get these troops. If we wanted to give them more troops, which we eventually do, then we need to build up those barracks to a larger size so that we'll have more available for them. And again, they'll have any, you can give them any conscripts in that area as well. You just kind of hover over that to see which area is in that HQ. So let's go ahead and go back here, mobilize our 2 generals. That's probably unnecessary, honestly. We don't really need both of them. And then we're going to have them both set up to advance this front as soon as the war starts. So they'll get there in 12 days for Zachary Taylor because he's closer. And for Winfield Scott, it's going to be 26 days since he's coming from New England. So we'll just bring him over there, try and get this war done quickly. This is one thing we're waiting on. We're going to be trading with France quite a bit, so we want a trade agreement with them. So this eliminates tariffs and the bureaucracy cost of the trade routes. So it does come with a cost. You know, you're not going to get the tariffs anymore. But when you're trading with one country a lot, it's quite beneficial. So we're going to go ahead and accept this and have a trade agreement with France because they're going to be our main trade partners, most likely. We're already trading quite a bit with them. We got an event about a mining accident. A mine in North Carolina has collapsed, trapping miners within the dark shafts below. The scale of the accident has made the tragedy a story across North Carolina and the nation. So another one of the events that you'll see quite often. Again, there's just not a whole lot of these random events, so you see them all the time. So we can say this is a small price to pay for the march of industry. It's going to create 5% more radicals among the lower strata pops in North Carolina, but the industrialists will gain some approval and they'll become more powerful. So that's kind of a good thing for what we want to do. Or we say this outrageous abuse of the common man cannot continue, and that will radicalize the upper strata pops in North Carolina while doing the same thing that this one did, but for the trade unions instead. Or you say these mines are a blight upon man and countryside alike, 5% more radical middle strata pops, and it'll be the rural folk that are instead affected. So we're going to go with this one. Try and increase the power of the industrialists. And we have high tensions with all of these Indian nations here. And so we're going to likely see a bunch of rebellions. This is going to be a common theme here. A slave belonging to Isaac Hull has escaped his estate and fled to a northern free state. Hull has demanded his return, but abolitionists are calling for his demands to be ignored. So another one we'll see quite a bit. And we wanted to do this one here. Free soil makes anyone free. Isaac Hull will get no help from the government. And we have a little bit of construction here. So we're going to go ahead and make use of that. But yeah, you just get so much notifications about crap that it makes this almost useless, but I can't help myself but click through it. We're losing a lot of money right now because of the war, of course. We just mobilized our troops, and that's very expensive. So paper is still really expensive, but remember, we're working to fix that. Same thing with the groceries, but iron, we have not done anything about that. Also clippers, we're gonna get some stuff producing, into the future, so we don't have to keep popping in here. We could use more construction, but I don't know if we'll be able to pay for it a bit later. So we'll probably just build slow, guys. I think it's fine for the beginning here. So we're looking at iron, clippers, and glass are the things that we want to work on here right now. Glass really isn't too bad, honestly, but yeah, we'll work on those three. So let's go ahead and do it in that order. So we'll do the iron mines first. Look at the profit. We'll see if there's anything profitable in locations you already have. In fact, even though it's not the most profitable, it says it's not. Again, that actually isn't true from what I found. If it's a low number, it still ends up being profitable. So I think we're going to build in Pennsylvania because I want to make this the source of iron and steel. And so you'll see once it starts building, I guess we could look at that here. It shows you where that building is being constructed. So in this case, the one in Illinois is being built in Chicago. I'm trying to get the city name to pop up, but it's not happening because we have the diplomatic play going. So we're in like the military view currently, which of course you can always get in those views yourself by using these. There's also all these different map modes here, which can be helpful. Some of them you can easily access by like hovering over stuff. But yeah, some of these are quite useful, and using them to take a look at the entire world as well. So I didn't show that yet, just wanted to cover it. Oh, we never did finish building, so let's go ahead and do that. We could actually build 2 of those iron mines. Get another one going in Pennsylvania. Again, it says it's not profitable, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So we got the iron mines. The other things we wanted to get, I have already forgotten, so let's go back to this. We wanted clippers, so we need shipyards, and we wanted glass. Okay, so the shipyards would be over here in the industry. And we already have shipyards in Massachusetts and Maine, makes sense. Nowhere is really going to be profitable, it seems. Yeah, everywhere is going to lose money. But we're going to build it in New York because I think they get a bonus for shipyards. and also it's the best profit that we're going to get. But yeah, it's saying it's not going to be profitable. It's fine. And then the other thing we're going to do is Glassworks. I guess we'll see if there's anywhere that currently has them. We got Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Not going to be profitable. These places don't have a lot of people right now. It's probably not going to build this there. New Hampshire. Yeah, that'd work. So build it right there. Alright, so keep them building for a little while. Here's the war. It's broken out. And, you know, obviously the Indian territory has joined us as well. So they're our subject. So the warfare system has been drastically changed from other Paradox games. Kind of controversial on the Paradox forums. A lot of people not happy with this change because you no longer really have armies on the map that you move around. Me, I was kind of indifferent towards it. At first, I was kind of opposed to it because I didn't like how simplified the system seemed. But I felt like they could really, you know, create something unique and really awesome with this system if they added a bit more to it. I was hoping they would do that before launch. They decided not to. So it's a very, very simple system, guys. A little too simple, and warfare is kind of boring and is really the weak part of the game currently. There's really just not much to it. You really just send your generals over there and tell them to either defend or to, you know, advance the front. You can do naval invasions, and that allows you to pick where they invade, and that's really the only control you have over it. You can't even determine which way they go, and frankly, the system doesn't work all that well. The system creates, you guys will see it when you play, creates some weird front problems where there's these little fronts that are created everywhere. You guys will see as we play, and it's, I don't know, it's just not very good. It's a pain in the butt moving them around. You can't exploit it, which is funny because the people who defended the war system said, oh, what's going to be nice about this is you can't exploit the AI to easily win wars, you know, like what you do in other Paradox games where you know, bait the AI to attack you in the mountains, a mountain fort or something where you're going to get some significant defensive bonuses. And so people were really happy that they wouldn't be able to exploit the AI. I found ways to exploit the AI, guys. I defeated in a war with Mexico where Russia joined and helped them. Russia sent like 300 battalions, and I was able to defeat 300 Russian battalions and 20-something Mexican battalions with about 20 of my own battalions, and I won that war very easily, losing hardly any men, just by using some exploits that I've discovered, and I'll show you guys once we get into such a conflict like that, because we won't be able to do it in this one. But here's the New York-Wyoming front. There'll be battles that will add up here, and we'll have a battle. We're going to slow this down a little bit since it's going pretty fast. So here's our battle. They do not have a general themselves. This is the battle condition that our general is going to use. Sometimes these are negative, sometimes they're positive. I don't think you get any of them with a general, without a general, I mean. And also you get some penalties, some pretty major penalties without a general. So we've done the surprise maneuver. We have no control over this, but this is determined by the general stats as well as a lot of randomness, quite a bit of randomness, in fact. The stats make it out to be like it's going to, you know, impact things more than it does, but you kind of see a lot of the same stuff. But here we go. We got innovative as commander. He's 100% surprise maneuver chance, and I think that might be what we just did. So it does impact it, but you'll see a lot of the same things, guys. A lot of the same maneuvers, regardless of their traits. But yeah, that's a nice one. 20% morale damage. Going through the battle, you can see what our offense is, what their defense is. Obviously, ours is overwhelmingly higher, so we're gonna defeat them pretty easily. You see how many battalions are involved. They do not use all the battalions that are on the front. It's under the assumption that, you know, you have, you know, part of your army defending other parts of the front while the other part of the army is advancing. So they won't typically have their entire army, and so that's where you can get situations where you know, smaller armies can be victorious against larger ones because they typically are able to bring more battalions to bear. Now in this case, he's got 5, we got 2, but his stats for each battalion is significantly lower. So we can also see the amount of dead and wounded in this battle, and we can see all the troops that are currently involved in this as well. So we just let it play. You see, we'll get the victory. Losing men, the wounded are going to affect our country as well. Also, we just completed the Texan statehood because we got that 20 opinion up with Texas. So it's at 20 now. And so now we've got an event. Texas has won its independence from Mexico and now seeks statehood within the United States of America. So we can welcome them in, and now we got Texas, or at least part of Texas. As you can see, Mexico controls large parts of the state, as do the Comanche. They have parts of the Texas state as well. So just looking at what they currently have, they got livestock ranches and some corn farms, and 2 units in the barracks. As far as their population, 56.8 thousand currently. We can incorporate states as well because we do have the bureaucracy. I've been trying to finish this first so I know exactly how much we have. I forgot we were looking at a battle here. But yeah, this is just taking forever to complete. It typically doesn't take that long, guys, especially with those percentages, but it's a let's play. This is something I haven't shown that we talked about last episode, the spreading of technologies. So that's currently happening. I think it's F7? F7, there we go, is the technology tree. And so you can see like what's being spread to you. And it slowly happens. So we might not be getting the spread everywhere. You know, again, we have one for each one of these tech trees. So we're getting logistics and military. And then we saw what we were getting here for the production. That'll help our steel industry. We might not have one here just yet. Yeah, looks like... yeah, we're not getting that one. Again, it takes a little while for them to fire. So we might not have one here just yet. Alright, so we're going to pop back over here. And you can see we're doing very well. Though, of course, we are losing men. But that's our victory. Battle lasted 22 days. And after each battle, you'll capture a certain amount of provinces. And that is controlled by a variety of things. There's a lot of stats that control how many provinces you capture. Well, the primary thing that affects it is the production methods here for your troops. You can see we got like skirmish infantry. This is artillery support. We got the best one we can get right now, mobile artillery. And then you got the cavalry scouts. So we're not getting anything here. But if we were to improve this, you'll notice we'll get plus 20% provinces captured by putting bicycle messengers on there. So that's one way to increase it. This is more defensive. You know, with the machine guns, so you lose less provinces when you lose a battle, and so on and so on. So we'll take a look at those as we get new production methods. So this is what we captured here, and this all happens on its own. So that allows you to manage the economy, manage politics, and you don't really have to play too much of a interest in the actual conflict. It'll just kind of happen on its own. But unfortunately, you know, because there's so many problems with the fronts in this little conflict, we shouldn't see that. Because you have all these front problems, like you can see it's already split into 2 fronts now. But because you can see this. Look at them all this movement here, guys. So we did see it. You already see it splitting in all these weird fronts here. And so sometimes it does require micromanagement because your generals are moving around. And this is one way you can kind of exploit things as well. But yeah, we currently have Winfield Scott over here and Zachary Taylor over here. Again, they'll move to the fronts on their own, but it might not be the best front. And the AI tends to move with you. Again, that's the way how you exploit it. I'll just kind of briefly mention the way you exploit it, guys, because I keep talking about it, is it takes time to move troops. We've seen that already, right? So let's say you're fighting in Mexico and you'll get like a split front down here. The AI follows you. So let's say you're fighting up here and there's a new front down here because you did a naval invasion. You can move the general down to this front and the AI will follow you. And then it'll take, let's say, 30 days for both generals to get down there. But as soon as you set him to move down there, you just stop him and keep him on this front. And I noticed the AI doesn't do that. They'll let the troops move over here. And so it takes them 30 days to get down here, and then they realize you're not down there. And so rather than stay down there and conquer the rest of that front, they'll then move back up north to engage your troops that are now advancing. That's another 30 days. And so you'll have 2 months of pushing forward on a completely undefended front. And I found that you can regularly exploit the AI that way by moving your troops around fronts and then quickly moving them back. And then they leave, and it gives you a bunch of time to advance the front, which is completely undefended. Or at least very lightly defended if it's just the garrison troops there. So yeah, I use that to win battles, win wars with very low numbers of troops. So there's the, yeah, so it's now spreading to us on all 3 techs. That's the last of the tech spreads. So this is the last frontier. Again, they're advancing the front on their own. And so, it's nice because you don't have to micromanage it. But, it's obviously leaves a lot to be desired. So the reason why we're not actually completing these is because we don't have large enough buildings. So let's go ahead and get those fixed. So we want to get a level 10 government administration building with the occupancy 90% or higher. We already have one in New York that's pretty close to that. We don't really need the bureaucracy, but I think we might end up doing it anyway just to get this completed, because you do have time limits on these. They'll time out after a certain amount of time. I'm not seeing one for this one, but the philosophy department is 7 years. So this one, we need a university that's at least level 5. So we can take a look at those, and we do need to build more universities. We have other price problems as well, but you're kind of getting that all fixed at this moment. So let's get those set up in the construction. So both of these are in the political one. And we'll do the universities first, since we don't actually need the bureaucracy right now. So let's do the universities, and let's just see where we currently have them. Okay, so Kentucky, Massachusetts, and New York. We have to get to level 5, so we'll just build both of these in New York. They're not going to be profitable because they're paid for by the government anyways. That's why there's really not much of a difference here in profitability, because they're not going to be profitable. They come from your own money here. So we will build 2 in New York to get them up to level 5. And then we'll also have to build 2 of these government administration buildings in New York in order to get them up to level 5, or excuse me, level 10. So yeah, definitely in debt right now. But that's okay. So we finish in this war. We have to get their war support down. So there's not anything for them to do at this moment. We've already completely conquered them. Unfortunately, you can't just, force the war to end once you've conquered them. You have to, they have to agree. And so nobody's willing to agree to anything, so we can't do it just yet. So we can set that up because that's what we want, to annex them. And then we scroll down, we can see why they're not willing to accept. And it's largely, they just still have war support. But eventually they'll accept this. But yeah, you can't force it, so it does take some time, which is a little bit frustrating because you completely conquered all their territory. It seems like you should just be able to force it, but it is what it is. They'll accept it eventually. And then you saw that our generals went to the standby order automatically. There's nothing for them to do. So I'm really hoping it passes this time, guys. It's just ridiculous how long this is taking. I did not expect it to take that long with our percentages. Intelligentsia is no longer powerful. The political movement for migration controls has disbanded. All right, excellent. So we got lucky there because that's not what happened in my campaign. They stuck around forever and became very radical. So we did not pass it. Instead, we got an event with the proposal to pass the Guaranteed Liberties Law. Members of the government have voted their concerns about it, or have voiced their concerns about it compromising the nation's internal security. So yeah, this is just taking forever, guys. And it looks like we might have to give up the bureaucracy. But this time it won't be for a flat 5 years. It's only while we're enacting it. So I'm willing to do that. We do have plenty. I just didn't want 5 years of -5 bureaucracy. That's going to increase the percentage chance by a lot, back up to where it was at before. So yeah, just kind of sad that we're having to do it this way and wait so long. So I'm just waiting for them to accept this here. And then we'll be able to get our money back up. And again, there's no way to demobilize your troops. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, if you're going to force me to sit at war when the war is over, then I should be able to demobilize. But, it is what it is. Paradox made certain choices, which people voiced their concerns in the comments. It reminds me a lot of Imperator Rome. We all talked about these things to Paradox and said, hey, some of these things are not good design. And Paradox, Johan specifically said, hey, I know how to make video games. I know it's fun. I didn't really want to hear anybody else's opinions, and then the game didn't do very well. Now, of course, this is not a Imperator Rome situation, but again, it just kind of feels similar, where people voiced their concerns and said, hey, this doesn't make any sense. This is not good design. And then Paradox didn't listen, and we get the game. They tell us, oh, just wait till you play it, then you'll see. And we get the game, and it turns out we were right. The inability to demobilize your troops it handicaps the game. There's no reason for it. But you can see they have accepted it. They finally capitulated. It took them a little while, but they realized they were defeated. And thus the war is now over, and we'll no longer have to pay for those troops. But the consequences are still there. We still lost those men, and we have those wounded as well. And we could have looked at the total casualties that we faced in that conflict. Probably is less than 1,000, honestly. In later wars, we'll pay more attention to that kind of stuff. Now, we're losing a lot of money right now. There's things we can do, but for right now, I'm not too worried about it. I think we're all right. But we do have a ton of radicals right now as well, and we can find out where that's coming from by hovering over this here. And it looks like the majority were coming from these political movements. The Preserve No Home Affairs, a lot coming from that, and probably that other one as well. And these political movements, this is where you get just a ton of radicals. But yeah, there's also been the standard of living decreasing, affecting it, and the slaves. And that's one reason why slavery is economically not great. You get a lot of turmoil from it, a lot of radicals from it. And also, and this is the biggest issue, is that while it does enrich the aristocrats because they can use the slaves and it's better for them, and that means you can get more taxes from them, the majority of your taxes on the early game tax laws don't come from rich people. They come from the poorer classes. So you're basically getting more taxes from them because they're richer, but it would be far better if the slaves were free and working jobs, because you can't tax a slave. So you could tax them if they were laborers instead, or whatever other job they might move into. So even economically, it's really not beneficial in the game to have slavery. And also, it seems to be kind of broken too. We'll probably see that with South Carolina unless they fixed it, which they might have. That is going to become more and more, of slaves. Eventually to the point where it's like the entire state becomes slaves for some reason. Everybody moves out of there. We'll see if they fixed it or not. I hope they did. I hope they fixed it. So I'm also hoping that we get this passed finally, because good God, it's taking forever. It's taking a very long time to get that passed. We're also getting all the economic situation problems that we have here fixed as we construct these different buildings, and then hopefully we should get these done as well. So working on all that, and we will have to get sulfur here eventually, and this is not involving us. Again, just all super confusing why they don't let you control that. What I'd like to see is like a message settings, kind of like what they had for EU4, where you can kind of change which messages you get notified about. Just let me pick what I get told about. That'd be nice. Another uprising has started. We'll likely see a lot of these as we do these colonizations here. We'll see quite a few of these uprisings pop up. You can see we are colonizing into historically Canadian territory as well. I did that in my other playthrough. But yeah, we're slowly getting all these colonized and added to our country. So this one will likely be even easier. They'll have less troops, I think. And we finally passed the law. Good God, it took forever. We now have guaranteed liberties. So this is going to add a new institution. You see the bureaucracy has already decreased. And these are the benefits we're going to get. A negative 10% revolution succession progression speed, negative 10% radicals from standard of living decreases, and a plus 10% loyalists from standard of living increases. Of course, it's also going to impact our interest groups. Intelligentsia loves it, while the bourgeoisie and the armed forces are not happy. In fact, they have become radicalized from it. They're so angry at us. Probably not wise to piss off the armed forces, but that's what we're doing. So we need to pass another law. Let's go ahead and work on that now. So there's new laws that we can do that we couldn't do before, but we're going to try this out, see what happens. It's no longer as high as it once was, unfortunately. We saw it had a 50% before. This will radicalize the southern planters. We could wait a little bit, but it's probably not going to get any better. Yeah, I mean, the situation is probably not going to get much better at this point, guys. There's a lot of people who don't care about it. Right now, we've got 2 leaders that endorse it, on top of the intelligentsia and the trade unions. So basically, it's 4 interest groups that support this, compared to just 1 that doesn't. but that one is more powerful. So that's something to consider. And then, of course, there's the interest groups that don't care. We can try this, guys. Let's see what happens. Let's see if a movement rises up, a political movement rises up to stop it. I would assume so. That one political movement has disbanded because obviously they don't need to try and preserve it because we've already passed it. So they'd have to do a political movement to try and reinstate it. So that's a completely separate one. We're going to see a political movement rise up probably. We'll see. But this has made the evangelicals loyal to us. Sounds like we got a plane going overhead. And then the southern planters are pissed. So that's going to impact our tax income from agricultural ranching and plantations. But they're more happy. That means a 2% birth rate and 10% authority. So the authority will be useful for us trying to get this passed quicker. Also, the rural folk are more happy. 10% infrastructure and 10% bonus to the throughput of logging, agriculture, and ranches. That will kind of make up for some of the penalties we're taking from the nobles being mad. All right, I say the nobles. Obviously, America doesn't have nobles, but the aristocracy, landed aristocracy, you can still kind of call them that, I suppose. Landed elite. Or the southern planters, as they called in the game. And the armed forces is pissed. Plus 25% military goods cost now. And I guess we're going to need to fight this. We have to send at least one general over there. I think that'll be enough. And out of the two generals, I like Zachary Taylor here. So we'll probably use him. He's cautious. He is an expert offensive planner and a good defensive strategist. But we are going to use Zachary Taylor here. So we're just going to mobilize only him. So this will be a little bit cheaper than mobilizing them both. And then what we'll want to do, should have did that there, is go ahead and have them advance the front over here. And so this should be an even quicker conflict because it's, smaller tribe that's rebelling on us. The caning of Henry Clay. So Henry Clay, an outspoken abolitionist, has been beaten with a cane by Isaac Hull, a slave owner. Clay's injuries compel him to convalesce and retire from public office while Hull still currently walks free. We talk about how divisive politics have become these days, but there are multiple incidents of actual physical violence and conflict in Congress happening between two congressmen. There are multiple instances in American history throughout the 1800s particularly, and we don't typically see that in our Congress today where they're actually physically fighting each other, but that happened quite a bit, and there's been weapons involved in some of those incidents too. So yeah, these are based on history, and yeah, it's just shows that it's not as bad as some people think it is. Of course, we are very divided in this country, but we've kind of always been that way. So we could say Isaac Hull was just defending his honor. We will do nothing. Henry Clay is going to retire from office. So that means the intelligentsia. I'm trying to click on this here. It's not letting me. The intelligentsia. Sometimes it's difficult to get over to this when you lock it. The intelligentsia will get a new interest group leader. Perhaps this time he won't be a Southerner, a Dixie culture. He is a pacifist, though. And I want to say, is he one of the ones supporting our law? I mean, I think the intelligentsia supports it no matter what, so I suppose it doesn't matter. We can instead say Isaac Hull assaulted a citizen. He must be removed from office and arrested. And, he's the leader of the Southern planters. So the question is he a good leader? Do we want to get rid of him? God damn. Again, it's just difficult sometimes to click on this. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. He's also our ruler, too. He's our president. So we can't just remove a president from office. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but yeah, it's only seeing him as an interest group leader. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to remove him from office. So we don't really know who we're going to get instead. He could be significantly worse. And no matter what, Henry Clay is going to resign. So do we want to just throw a random president in here? And this guy's not, he is slightly popular, but he's really not given a lot of bonuses to his interest group. So I feel like we should not do that option. Because it's safer sticking with him. Because we don't know what we're going to get. So Henry Clay has resigned. It always says they died. I'm curious who replaced him and show us that. So let's take a peek. Abraham Lincoln. Of course it's Abraham Lincoln. So one thing I noticed is whenever the files say that a historical character can become the leader of a particular interest group, it seems to happen almost immediately. And so what you end up getting is these historical characters coming into play very young, much younger than you'd expect, often becoming president much younger than you expect. I had a President Abraham Lincoln in my previous campaign in like 1840 something. I don't remember which year it was, which election it was, but it was in the 1840s. I had a President Abraham Lincoln, and then I had Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt. We had him. I don't know if he got to the presidency, but he's an interest group leader in the other campaign that I had pretty early as well. I think we saw him in like 1880 or something like that, come in as an interest group leader. And so they're always in their 20s. So they really need to fix that, make it, I mean, I suppose it's fine, but it's just really weird. There's also no limits, age limits for like political office. You know, here in the United States, you got to be, 35, 36? I think it's 36 in order to become president. They don't have any of that. It's kind of weird sometimes, but that's the decisions they made. Maybe they'll make some adjustments there. So the war has broken out with them, so this will all happen on its own. Nothing really for us to do here. Let's let our General Taylor finish up the conflict. So yeah, he just moves around and gets it done. So there's not really anything you have to do here, guys. And so now he's already finished it up, and we're just waiting for them to accept our peace deal, which they're not willing to do anytime soon. We'll have to wait a bit and continue paying for those troops. So you can see we are starting to really burn through our gold reserves. Once we burn through that completely, we'll start taking debt. That debt is provided from our pops, from the buildings specifically. And so it does benefit them because they'll get the interest payments, but obviously it'll cost us interest. And with them capitulating, the war is now over. And so we control all this. And we're already starting to push into here. This is going to result in some weird looking borders, honestly. But if we, attack Canada, right now they're split up, and you got the Columbia District, the Hudson Bay Company, Lower Canada, Upper Canada, so on. But eventually it'll all be just Canada. We attack Canada, we could, take all this territory over, and we already have some control of it. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop colonization here. So we're colonizing throughout all these regions here. Let's see if there's anything we need to be aware of. Unhealthy economy. We're losing so much money at this moment. And that's largely because we're building government buildings that aren't paid for by the investment pool. And that does mean that that's just stacking up. But we'll be able to use that later when we build something. We can go ahead and get some stuff building now, in fact, as long as it's not government stuff. You see paper mills are going to be necessary. That's still kind of expensive. Sulfur needs to be improved, and we actually have some production methods we can mess with for the explosives. So that's what we'll do. So let's get the sulfur, which we already know that Florida seems to be the best location for that. And then here it is, guys. Here's the political movement that's going to cause us the problems here. We'll take a look at all that in a minute. Let's first manage the economy. So we're going with sulfur. We'll look at the production methods, and we're going with paper. So we'll do the paper first. So that seems to be the worst situation, and it's only going to get worse here with what we're currently constructing. So paper mills. So we'll see if we can stick in these locations. Yeah, we could do New York, but let's just see if there's anywhere else we might want to build that has the peasants and the profitability to make it worth it. Yeah, I guess we can do either one of these two, Iowa or Wisconsin. We'll do Wisconsin. So we'll get one more paper mill there. We could do two, but I did want to get the sulfur building, so let's work on that. So sulfur mines, and we want to do those in Florida, though they can't support the sulfur mines yet. They have that modifier. That's interesting. That's kind of strange, right? Because it's got the Bone Valley sulfur mines building throughput, but they cannot support sulfur mines. Seems like an oversight. Or maybe something has to fire for them to build it. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why we can't get that there. So we'll have to find somewhere else to build the sulfur mines. And looks like we got a few locations that would be profitable. You know what? We'll do Iowa. Yeah, because we just built in Wisconsin. So we'll do Iowa. So we'll get one sulfur mine there. That's probably good enough. And this can be paid for by the investment pool as well, which we have a nice little stack there. We were able to complete that. The philosophy department, our universities, we've got them up to the level 5, and we had them at least 90% employed. So this is going to give us a nice little bonus here. We have secured funding for philosophy departments in all of our institutions of higher learning. The University of New York has chosen to focus this funding on advancing Hegelian dialectics, if I pronounce that correctly, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So this is going to give us a plus 25% university building throughput throughout the country for 5 years. So that'll be pretty helpful. Just taking a look at where we're at right now with our innovation, we're at 73. Remember, our max is 122. So we could continue to build that up. We're also about to finish up that tech, it looks like. This won't be done until we complete those 2 there. And then we're going to need to be a little bit more conservative with our building, try and get our money back up. Might want to look at taxes as well. Try and get some money there. Though that does impact our peoples, of course. Also, we got our tech done. Excellent. More influence, more bureaucracy. Let's take a look at our institutions here, guys. So we do need to improve the education, law enforcement. We haven't ticked this over yet to another law, so this is increasing this other planters. So we don't want to give them any more support right now. Probably home affairs, so we get more radicals, or excuse me, get less radicals and more loyalists. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And eventually we want to do this education axis as well. But let's go and do the home affairs. And this is how much it's going to cost for each level. So we have plenty of room here. It's going to get us to 126. So we'll get that up to level 2. And I think we're going to incorporate some states as well. So we can do that through here, and we can see which states still need to be incorporated. So let's go ahead and do Michigan. You can see the bureaucracy cost, 35.2 there. We're going to do Florida. This is not instant either. It does take time. But we do have a lot of bureaucracy, so let's go ahead and add. I think we'll do those for now. I mean, we got plenty. We'll just do all the ones we can do at the moment. All right, so again, that does take time. So if we were to, like, say, click on Florida here, you can see how long it's going to take. 24 months to do them. Same thing with Texas and so on. So about 2 years to make those all into states. We'll get more stars on our flag, and they'll get access to our institutions. And also we get like, we get tax them more and all that kind of good stuff. We need to pick a tech. And this will likely be the last thing we do here. Well, we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, let's go and get tech done. I feel like we've probably done the society techs enough for right now. Eventually we're going to want to get that. 17 months, we can do it pretty quick. But there's some production techs we could definitely make use of. Could speed this process up, though steel isn't currently an issue just yet. We could do that. Could also try and get more liquor for our peoples. Not a high demand for that at the moment. So don't really need to. There's also the crystal glass. I would use lead to get more glass production. I think that's what we're going to get, guys. Could also get the canneries. That does require a lot of different good consumption. Let's do the crystal glass. It's going to be at 19 months, so about 2 months longer than our society techs, because we're not getting as many bonuses there. So yeah, we have the preserve legacy slavery, and the radicalism is incredibly high. So this could cause the problem. This is what I was talking about, the movement. It's really a matter of RNG. Like, you know, how lucky are you? Which I'm a very unlucky person in general. So it matters, you know, how lucky you are. If you get this passed quick, it's not going to be too much of a problem. But if we don't, if it takes forever, like that last law did, takes like years, then that's where we can see the issue of a potential civil war, because there'll be so many radicals. So, you know, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, I did it, you know, right away. You know, okay, that doesn't mean everybody's going to do it right away. It's all about the percentage and just your luck as well. So we'll see what happens there, guys. But unfortunately, that is the end of today's episode. I feel like we got a lot done. We have some more journal entries as well. The munitions industry. Yeah, I don't see us doing that one right now. Yeah, and we already looked at these other ones here. Okay, so nothing that we actually want to do, but we do have a decision we can take, Manifest Destiny. So this one's really nice because it gives us claims on all of those states, California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. Also, it's going to please the southern planters while pissing off the intelligentsia. And of course, Mexico, we're going to get a bunch of infamy for this. And it adds in these journal entries, the Mexican Session and the Frontier Wars. So just take a look at where they stand. They're incredibly loyal, so that's not going to impact us much, while the southern planters are pissed at us, so that would be helpful. So yeah, we can go ahead and do that. It does give us all that infamy, which means we can start burning it down, getting rid of it. Impacts relations as well. But this is one of the advantages of getting nationalism. That's why we wanted to get that. So I was going to finish colonizing all this before we did this here. We don't have to attack them right away. You know, we don't lose the claim. And so I think we're going to go ahead and take that. And so now we have these two new journal entries. The Manifest Destiny Mexican Session, which requires us to own all of these states here. And then it'll trigger that event. And the Frontier Wars, which requires us to own all of these states over here. So I think most of those are just about colonization. Yeah, just about all those about colonization, but some of these we can't colonize yet because we don't have interest in those states. We can go ahead and do a colonization of Texas, finish that up here with the Comanche, so we'll go ahead and do that. So essentially, war with Mexico is on the horizon. Obviously, we need to deal with the slavery situation first. We're not forced to do these. There's no like time limit, it looks like. So we will wait to deal with Mexico until after we get this enacted. We don't need to be in the middle of a civil war right when we're fighting Mexico, which I'm going to try and avoid, which means we might have to stop that. But again, we do have a movement which doesn't have a lot of support, but does have high radicalism. So we'll see what happens there, guys. As of right now, we're not seeing any potential revolution, potential rebellion, so we're good to go. We'll see. It really depends on how long this takes. As of right now, it's probably going to take a while with that percentage. We'll see what events we get as well. But hope you guys did enjoy today's episode. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment. Do hope to see you guys on the next one. And thanks for watching.